Now let's take a quick tour through some of the essential strategy and business architecture content that we might typically create in trying to help the business better understand what it's here to do and how it's best set out to do it. So I'm going to be showing all of this content in Enterprise Architect, the desktop modeling tool, but as Scott will show you a little bit later, this content is very accessible and has a great interaction model when displayed through WebEA. And one of the common practices for that, as well as legacy models through the desktop interfaces, to enable effective navigation. So on the left, you're basically seeing the high-level navigation for this example project, which is for an airport that is going through some modernization and transformation, and we're calling this the ATDT initiative, the Airport Terminal Digital Transformation Initiative. And we're not going to have time to go through every little detail, so I'm going to start off by going through some key aspects of business strategy, value streams, and capability models, and how we can represent that content and use it to our advantage using the BizBox modeling solution that is a part of Enterprise Architect. So let's take a look at some key strategic planning content, starting with what we call a strategy map in BizBox. And so what we're showing here is the objectives of the business, in this case growing revenue, improving safety, improving passenger experience. Of course, best practice suggests that those things probably should be elaborated a little bit further, namely all objectives are supposed to be smart, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound, showing the stakeholders who own those objectives, and then through various techniques, which Scott will show you a little bit more about after I'm through, using our innovation management approach. That's what the yellow boxes at the bottom represent some of the outcomes, namely ideas that people across the enterprise had about how to deliver upon that strategy, how those things were eventually prioritized and assessed and then used to synthesize actual strategies, which are the purple boxes with the rook symbol that realize one or many objectives, and then how we've taken those 4 individual strategies, which we want to think of as high-level courses of action, and roll that up into an aggregated, integrated digital transformation strategy. After we've done initial formulation and definition of the strategy, the next step is to do a high-level assessment without doing a lot of detailed investigation of what our speculated impacts of that strategy are going to be. And so part of this is really taking a look at what portions of the business architecture are going to be impacted by the strategy or are going to guide the strategy. So in this case, we've represented that there are 2 key value streams that are aligned with some of the strategic elements, namely the arrive at destination value stream and the depart for destination value stream. And again, keep in mind this is a business architecture model for an airport, not an airline, which would have similar value streams but a little different beginning and ending. We're showing that our data security and privacy policies are going to govern how we implement and deliver and operate on those strategies, and then a first pass high-level assessment of the business capabilities that we think are going to be impacted by the strategy. Next, let's take a look at a couple of ways that we can express our value model. So we're going to start by taking a look not at the value stream as a whole. I think you'll get the idea about that in just a second, and it's very similar to the deliver strategic outcomes value stream that we reviewed earlier. But we'll take a look closer at what we call the value stream specification, where we can more clearly identify the value items that are offered by each of the value stream stages. And this is really one of the most important parts of creating this type of model. Is we're really trying to not focus on what we do, but why are we doing it, and trying to express how we're different or trying to change our user experience, either as it relates to our current offerings or those that are offered by our competitors. We're also trying to represent what stakeholders participate and support the different stages of the value stream, and then how we can take all of those value items and trace them back to the original value proposition of the value stream, and just see if that makes sense, that when we add all those value items up, do we believe that we are going to be able to deliver upon the top level value proposition. The next value stream perspective that we often find very important is what is the relationship between our capability model and the different stages of a value stream. So what we're trying to represent here is the individual capabilities that are in place to enable each of the value stream stages. And the representation that I'm showing here is a common one that's described in the BizBot guide, where we list the value stream stages at the top, and then kind of thinking about there being those representing the headers of swim lanes, position each of the capabilities underneath them that are supporting that value stream stage, with the requirement that, as you'll see here, there are certain capabilities that may support multiple stages, such as passenger service management, which shows up in several of the value stream stage cross-mapping. And while this is a great way to visualize this and show this to stakeholders, we can also possibly heat map it by color coding the different capabilities or the value stream stages based on either qualitative or quantitative metrics. Is actually establishing the relationship between stages and capabilities using Enterprise Architect's relationship matrix feature, and then generating this diagram from that content. And that's based on a premise of what we're trying to do is take some of the responsibility off of manually constructing some of these views, particularly if the repository already has all of the information about what's related to what. Now let's take a look at a couple of capability model representations, starting with a capability interaction diagram. And so what we're trying to show here, based on the cross-mapping of the capabilities to each of the value stream stages for the depart for destination value stream, we've now organized them a little bit differently, where we're really trying to represent what are the relationships and integrations between these different capabilities, specifically focusing on what information is being conveyed and transmitted between each of the business capabilities. And so the words that you see on the dashed lines are not just pieces of text that we've typed into the tool, but actually are directly mapped to the elements of our information model. And so that gives us a great capability of making sure that we're consistent with our terminology, as well as being able to extract very useful information about how different information is used across the enterprise. We've also taken the opportunity to exploit one of the features of EA to create an auto legend, where we're showing the criticality of how each of these capabilities, its disposition towards supporting this value stream in the context of this initiative. And not only is this again a great way to build consensus across the business about how does the different parts of the business fit together and interact and exchange information, but this also is a foundation for the application architecture community when they're procuring, acquiring, and building software applications that support these capabilities. We really can think of this as an application architecture reference architecture that guides how the different applications need to relate to one another and the information and data they should be exchanging. In addition to building capability models and value streams and how they cross-map with information and all that good stuff in the business architecture, another important dimension of this is to collect some requirements that describe how the different parts of the business architecture need to be improved or changed to deliver upon the strategy. So here we have a simple diagram that's showing the value stream as a whole, the 6 value stream stages. Just for context, the the business capabilities that we cross-mapped to each of those stages, and we showed on that capability interaction diagram. And then what are the business requirements that are related to each of those capabilities, including things like personalizing the terminal services targeting for passengers, and you can see how we've got individual requirements directly tracing to specific capabilities, and then similarly for biometric-based security screening, and a gate boarding study, and enhanced security threat identification. Lastly, let's take a look at how we can exploit all this content and how it's been wired together by taking a look at the traceability tree for one of the requirements. And so what we can see here is how the target passenger with service opportunities requirements is a part of a higher level requirement around targeting. It depends on the passenger service management and is traced to that capability, which is used to enable multiple value stream stages, including prepare for boarding, which is a part of the depart for destination value stream, which is aligned with a couple of different strategies, where one of them, offer expedited security program, is an implementation of the improved passenger experience business objective. So this is kind of one of the big ideas of why we want to capture all this content, so that when something changes, we have the ability to instantly go into the repository, see what it's related to and dependent on, and how those changes might impact things upstream and downstream. And now I'm going to hand it over to Scott to show you some more great features of Enterprise Architect for supporting the Agile enterprise.